Yo, man, what's the YouTube, man? It's your boy Mickal. That's AK Snapper, man. And Ted David, man. We got the Miami Dolphins decision can ruin their franchise. If you're new, man, hit that like button, subscribe, and share, man. Run the road to 800 subs.
Significant decisions that the Miami Dolphins will have to make this offseason involves their quarterback.
But we've stayed in touch with his agent, had good conversations throughout the year.
We're going to simmer on this and see what we can do to get better from it going into next year.
This year was a crucial big picture season for Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. Since drafting the former Alabama star 5th overall in the 2020 NFL Draft, Miami had climbed out of their stretch of losing seasons to become relevant in their division and in the AFC playoff picture. In 2022, a new head coach and star wide receiver helped push the Miami Dolphins back into the postseason, which set up massive expectations in 2023. Tua overcame serious injury concerns that plagued him in years past to have a career year and get the Miami Dolphins back into the playoffs. But a late season collapse cost them the division.
You know, it's crazy. Motherfuckers said Tua was better than Lamar Jackson. Nigga, what? Nigga, you see what I'm wearing? Nigga, big Baltimore Ravens. Nigga will never be better than Lamar Jackson, nigga. Lamar Jackson is better than Tua. Nigga, he's better than fucking Josh Allen, nigga. And I said it too.
Forcing them to hit the road where their championship hopes wilted away in the freezing cold. Now the Miami Dolphins have a huge decision to make. As they analyze their quarterback's role in their late season failures, Miami will have to decide whether or not to give Tua a new contract, and if so, what those terms would be. This decision and future negotiations will have massive ramifications for the rest of the roster, and ultimately, the future of the franchise and the Mike McDaniel, Tua Tagovailoa, and Tyreek Hill era. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop, like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. We're making a huge 900,000 subscribers. And now that we get all that
up. All right, dog, let's get to the video, my nigga. All right, come on now. Thank you.
1212. What's going on, everybody? Tua and the Dolphins offense began the 2023 season clicking on all cylinders. He torched the LA Chargers with 466 passing yards, 211 of them being to Tyreek Hill in a week.
Anybody can torch the Chargers defense. Chargers defense was ass.
One victory. After putting away the division rival Patriots in week 2, Miami put the league on notice with a historic week 3 at home against the Denver Broncos. The Dolphins scored 10 offensive touchdowns, becoming the third team to ever score 70 points in a regular season game and the first since 1966. Tua had a nearly flawless game, 23 of 26 for 309 passing yards with 4 touchdowns and no interceptions, with a nearly perfect quarterback rating as they blew out the Denver Broncos by 50 points. Tua appeared to be ahead of the pack in the MVP conversation, with the Miami Dolphins humming through a 3-0 start. But this is where we would get our very first sign of trouble. A week later, after trading touchdowns early, Miami's offense couldn't keep up with the division rival Buffalo Bills, as Josh Allen thoroughly outplayed Tua in a 48-20 blowout. Miami came home for the next 2 weeks as Tua stabilized the offense against the New York Giants and the Carolina Panthers in double-digit wins. But they hit the road again, where similar problems doomed them in Week 7 on Sunday Night Football. The Dolphins offense only reached the end zone once against an Eagles defense that was one of the worst in the entire league. The Dolphins kept it close for most of the game, thanks in part to a pick 6 from their defense, but they ultimately lost by 14 as they fell to 5-2. Once again, they got back on track at home against New England as Tua threw for 324 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in a convincing 31-17 victory. But again,
bro, this nigga Tyreek went from Patrick Mahomes to Tua, whatever the nigga last name. I understand you wanted money, but you could have stayed in Kansas City with Mahomes and get you multiple rings.
And once they left the comforts of South Florida, the Miami Dolphins would run into trouble. This time, it would be overseas. Playing the Kansas City Chiefs in Germany, Miami was shut out in a horrific first half. They trailed 21-0 at the break, with the last touchdown coming off of a Tyreek Hill fumble that Kansas City took back 59 yards for a score right before the half. The Dolphins got back in the game in the third quarter when Tua hooked up with Cedric Wilson for a 31-yard touchdown and scored another touchdown on a short field after a Kansas City Chiefs fumble. Down 7 with a chance to tie the game, the Dolphins offense got to the Chiefs' 31-yard line with just over a minute left. Facing 4th down with the game on the line, Tua fumbled the snap, snuffing out their hopes without even getting a pass off, and the Dolphins lost 21-14. After the game, Tua put the mistake on himself.
The last play of the game, I mean, I'm always going to blame myself. I got to catch the ball. So whether that's getting in a better position to catch it or whatever it is, can't end the game like that when we have an opportunity like that against a really good team.
That loss dropped Miami to 6-3.
That's great. Tua can be like one of the best QBs, but it's just his decision. Like if you see his games when he played my Ravens, he would literally look to one receiver and he would literally go to that person. So he makes it like predictable. So if he looks at one person, like one receiver, he's gonna who's gonna be open to throw to, he's literally gonna throw it right to that same person.
During their bye week, and the offense didn't exactly turn it around right away when they came home. Miami came out sluggish against the Las Vegas Raiders with Tua fumbling on their first possession. He appeared to stabilize the offense with a long touchdown to Tyreek Hill, but a turnover on downs and another fumble kept Las Vegas close at halftime. An interception on the first play of the second half didn't help either. Thankfully, their defense helped salt the game away by shutting out the Raiders in the second half. An end zone interception from Jalen Ramsey sealed the deal, and the Dolphins held on for a 20-13 victory and improved to 5-0 at home. The next 2 weeks were cakewalks. Although Tua threw interceptions on back-to-back drives, including a pick six, and lost another fumble on a botched handoff, Tua gave his surging defense plenty of help against the Jets, winning 34-13 on Black Friday. Next week at Washington, Tua found Tyreek Hill for a pair of long touchdowns as they torched the Commanders' porous defense in a 45-15 rout. Tua was
the Commanders are trash. What do you yo, I mean, bro, I think that game Hill had over 100 receiving yards, 45-15. That's
nearly perfect in the victory, which moved the Dolphins to 9-3, a record that they hadn't owned since 2001. Plus, they had opened up a sizable lead in the division standings. The New England Patriots were a mess. The New York Jets were toast once Aaron Rodgers went down, and the Buffalo Bills were 6-6 and on the verge of falling out of the playoffs altogether. The Miami Dolphins were on top of the AFC playoff picture with control of their own destiny, but their next game would permanently alter their season for the worst. Boasting a perfect home record, the Dolphins welcomed in the 4-8 Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football, who were starting rookie quarterback Will Levis. On Miami's opening drive, Tua fumbled away yet another snap on the Titans' 2-yard line. Luckily for them,
this game right here was, I think this game was on Monday night or some Sunday night, one of those. When they were 2 touchdowns with 3 minutes left and they lost that.
Defense responded with a quick 5-yard pick six for the game's first score. But the Dolphins offense was shut out in the first half as Tyreek Hill spent much of it on the sideline after injuring his ankle in the first quarter. They eventually hit a pair of field goals in the second half before a muffed punt set up the Dolphins in the red zone where Raheem Mostert cashed in on a short touchdown run. A bad pitch on the Titans' next offensive snap set Miami up once again in the red zone, and once again Mostert punched it in for a 2-touchdown lead with 4.5 minutes left. But then disaster.
Hopkins, DeAndre Hopkins, what the fuck did you go to the fucking Titans for? What, to get more money? You could have came to Baltimore and you know what I'm saying, you could have came to Baltimore, bro. You gonna go to fucking Tennessee Titans for what? Yo, dumb ass sitting at home on the couch.
Right. And this time, it wasn't only on the offensive side of the ball, it was on both sides of the ball. Tennessee drove 75 yards down the field in less than 2 minutes, scoring a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to get within 6 points with 2:40 to go. With the ball and a chance to put the game away, Miami went 3 and out. In 26 seconds, the Titans went back down the field and took the lead with a touchdown and extra point. Still, Miami got the ball back again with the chance to win, but they couldn't even get 20 yards down the field, and a sack on 4th down sealed their fate as they lost their first home game by a point. Tua, who
lost to the motherfucking Titans with a fucking backup QB or fucking Will Levis.
Threw a touchdown in 21 straight games, was kept out of the end zone. It was the first win for a team down 14 with under 3 minutes left since 2016, which you might have guessed looking at the win probability chart. They quickly moved past that setback, blanking the Jets 30-0 in a game where Tua only had 3 incompletions, even without Tyreek Hill. But with Tyreek Hill back in the lineup against Dallas next week, the Miami Dolphins finally gave us a statement victory, finally beating a team with a winning record. But even with Tyreek Hill back in the lineup, they only scored 1 touchdown, but a late 12-play drive would set up a game-winning field goal which secured a 22-20 victory as Miami clinched a playoff spot. The division title was in their sights before disaster struck. The Dolphins were outclassed in every way in Baltimore. Lamar Jackson
big Baltimore, you know what's good, man. Big Baltimore, you know what's good, man. Big Baltimore, they went in there, thought they were going to do something. They didn't do nothing. They're going to have 19 points or whatever it is. They had 0 points. We fucking dropped 56. them niggas want to be complaining because we drive over 50 points. But when them niggas drop 70 points against the motherfucking Broncos, niggas ain't say shit, right? It's always a problem when we do it, you know what I'm saying? Look at how they do that
Perfect,
shit.
while Tua looked anything but, throwing 2 interceptions as the Ravens clinched the 1 seed with a 56-19 blowout. That set up their season finale against Buffalo, in which was surprisingly the AFC East championship game. While the Dolphins were slipping, the Bills had been surging on a 4-game winning streak. Still, Miami held a 14-7 lead in the fourth quarter thanks to a pair of long touchdown drives in the second quarter, but a Bills 96-yard punt return touchdown tied the game and flipped the script. Miami went 3 and out, and Buffalo responded with a go-ahead touchdown drive. Dolphins had the ball in the last 2 minutes with a shot to tie it, but Tua got picked off for the second time as Miami got shut out in the second half, officially blowing the division, losing.
I'm fucking throwing picks, my nigga. This is for the number one seed, the AFC East championship, and you fold, my nigga, with you threw a pick, and then you're saying you're better than Lamar Jackson. That's hilarious.
21-14. As devastating as losing the division was, the Dolphins still had a chance to shake off their disappointment when they traveled to Kansas City for their wild card playoff game. And this is where the Miami Dolphins preparation was a little confusing. Even though they were facing the Kansas City Chiefs in historically cold weather, I mean, we're talking Andy Reid's mustache freezing up in the middle of the game cold weather, the Dolphins still practiced in Miami in the week leading up to the game. Once they got to Kansas City, their offense looked like a shell of its former self. Outside of a 53-yard touchdown pass.
Yeah, if you come on now, we all know they used to the warm weather. They should have went to KC and at least did something in the cold weather to like feel what it's like.
Tyreek Hill, the Dolphins were lifeless. They were 1-12 on third down and didn't run a single play in the red zone in a game that felt over at the end of the third.
But then when Mahomes goes crazy in the playoffs, it's crazy. That's what I'm saying. We need Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson for the AFC Championship. Why? Because that brings a lot of eyes, a lot of views, and more money. Nobody wants to see fucking Josh Allen versus Lamar. No one wants to see that bullshit. Come on.
Quarter, the Chiefs handled Miami with little resistance, winning 26-7. The cold clearly affected this warm weather team, as Tua admitted after the game.
Yeah, it was a little difficult in the beginning, but then we sort of figured out a plan with how we went about that later on within the game. But yeah, it was different.
With Detroit's wild card victory over the Rams, the Dolphins now have the NFL's longest active playoff win drought. Tua led the league in passing yards, Tyreek Hill led the league in receiving yards, and tied for the lead in receiving touchdowns. Jalen Waddle had a third consecutive
receiving stats. Mike Evans, of course.
Season with over 1,000 receiving yards. Raheem Mostert had a historic season for his age with 1,000 rushing yards and a league-leading 18 touchdown runs. Rookie Devon Achane blossomed with 800 rushing yards on almost 8 yards per carry. They led the league averaging over 400 yards per game and finished second in scoring, but they came up woefully short almost every time the stakes were raised or the competition was better, and this included the playoffs. The Miami Dolphins went 1-6 against teams with winning records. Yes, they had a series of season-ending injuries on defense throughout the season, but so did the Buffalo Bills, who caught and then surpassed them to win their 4th consecutive division title. Miami's offense completely failed.
Nobody gives a fuck about the Bills. Nobody wants to see that bullshit. Come on.
At the end of the season, calling Tua's
play. Saying Josh Allen is better than Lamar Allen. They had no MVPs. He had a better team than Lamar. He has no MVPs.
Question. He hadn't exactly played his best football down the stretch, and his playoff numbers even looked bad next to Skylar Thompson, a 7th round.
Give Lamar Stephon Diggs. Give Lamar DK Metcalf. Give Lamar Debo. Give him Tyreek Hill and see what happens. I bet you the league don't want that to happen.
Rookie who started their playoff game last year in Buffalo with Tua out. This development has set the stage to force the organization to make a difficult choice in the coming months. You see, the Miami Dolphins are in a spot where they have to show their cards on how they view their quarterback. Picking up his 5th-year option last year is certainly a vote of confidence, but it's far from a long-term commitment. The 5th year on his rookie contract gives him a fully guaranteed salary of about $23.17 million for the upcoming season. Technically, Miami doesn't even have to do anything and let him play out the season on his 5th-year option. But that would certainly speak volumes, especially when considering the extensions of the other quarterbacks in Tua's draft class. Jalen Hurts, who was a 2020 2nd-round pick, signed a 5-year extension for Tua.
He was a 2nd-round pick?
$155 million after leading the Eagles to the Super Bowl. That puts his average annual value at $51 million, which at the time was the largest in NFL history. Right before training camp, Justin Herbert, the 6th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, topped that by signing a 5-year extension worth $262.5 million. His average annual value was $52.5 million, topping both Hurts and Lamar Jackson, who signed his new deal after Hurts. Right before the season, Joe Burrow, the 1st pick in the 2020
Joe Burrow is better than this nigga.
NFL Draft, topped all of them.
And this nigga has been hurt more than Lamar. And nigga talking about Lamar this, Lamar that. Fuck. And this nigga Joe Burrow had better weapons than Lamar. Give Lamar Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and shit like that, and see what fucking happens.
5-year contract extension for $275 million, giving him a record average annual value of $55 million a year. These are the numbers hanging in the background of any negotiation between Tua and the Dolphins. Can no longer build their team with a QB on a rookie deal if they commit to him and give him a contract that's comparable to his fellow 2020 NFL draft class QBs. As of right now, his salary next season isn't even half of any of those deals. If Miami doesn't want to pay Tua a number close to or over $50 million a season, trading him seems like a plausible option. After playing in every game and leading...
But if they trade him, what team are you going to trade him to? What team really... Come on, what team wants him? Ooh, maybe... What can I say? What team? Seattle?
Passing yards, Miami would likely get someone to bite with an offer, but this might be the only chance for the Dolphins to move him with multiple quality offers. Whoever trades for him would have to be willing to give up draft capital to acquire him and then sign a long-term extension once they have him, not to mention being comfortable with his injury history from previous seasons. Essentially, the Dolphins would be offering a starter whose new team can negotiate their own deal with him rather than inherit a deal that they didn't make. Trading him next year with an extension already attached to him limits his appeal. Ask the Rams about when they traded Jared Goff to the Detroit Lions. Do you remember what they had to do to get Matthew Stafford on this roster? They had to give up a former #1 overall pick that recently just beat the LA Rams, by the way, in the playoffs, a 2022 first round pick, a 2020.
So they got this 3rd round pick. They got Williams, yeah, and they got Jamar, yeah, damn. Sam Laporta good, Gibbs is good.
23 first round pick and a 2021 3rd round pick. Or what about the Eagles when they traded the very next pick in the same draft, Carson Wentz? If the Dolphins view Tua the way those teams viewed their starters at the time, then now is the time to move on. That's especially true if the Dolphins like one of the numerous first round worthy QBs in the 2024 draft. The successes of rookie CJ Stroud and first year starter Jordan Love give credence to the belief that a young QB can succeed right away when surrounded by the right weapons and coaching.
Yeah, then also veterans like a QB. Why Jordan Love is better? Why? Because he was 3 years. He was sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for 3 years. And if you watch Jordan Love, bro, he moves like when he throws, like it literally reminds you of Aaron Rodgers. This way he literally reminds you of Aaron Rodgers. And CJ Stroud just a generational talent. He ain't sit behind nobody, but CJ Stroud, watch, give the Texans one, like probably like I said 2 to 3 years, and they'll
going
be
down
contenders.
this road would indicate
right now,
the Dolphins believe in Mike McDaniel, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and their running backs more than Tua. For their part, the Dolphins have publicly expressed a desire to keep Tua in Miami, as Chris Greer told reporters after the season.
No, we've had conversations, like we said, we wouldn't talk with, throughout the season in terms of contract stuff, but we've stayed in touch with his agent, had good conversations throughout the year.
This nigga, he did not want to keep Tua. This nigga, though, he did not want to keep Tua. That shit crazy. He do not want to keep Tua, y'all. He don't. That shit funny.
Never talking about money or anything, just good conversations about, where he is and the relationship with Mike and the team here and everything he's done. And, so the goal is to have him here long-term playing at a high level. So, that's all.
He said long-term, okay.
Always the goal, and we'll continue. We'll communicate with him through the offseason here. And
last summer, Tua said he hadn't spoken with the team about his contract since they picked up his 5th-year option, which he said he was fine with. Even after the playoff loss, Tua didn't seem too worried about upcoming negotiations.
I don't feel any pressure at all. I have full trust in myself. I have full trust in what I'm capable of doing for our organization. But outside of that, we're focusing on tonight and what happened. You know, we're going to simmer on this and see what we can do to get better from it going into next year.
Regardless of what happens with Tua this offseason, the Dolphins may have to make significant changes to the rest of their roster. They're more than $40 million over the salary cap, with multiple defensive starters hitting free agency.
With Tyreek Hill, yeah.
However, their contract decision with Tua will have a massive impact on how they address those impending free agents and their draft strategy. Moving forward financially, the Dolphins aren't in a position to kick the can down the road with the franchise tag, which essentially amounts to a massive one-year extension. In other words, it's now or never. Either the Miami Dolphins make a massive commitment to Tua Tagovailoa as their starter for the next 4 to 5 years, or we may have seen Tua's final snaps with the Miami Dolphins. If you're a Miami Dolphins fan, let me know in the comment section down below. What should the Miami Dolphins decide? Should they move forward with Tua as their starter, or should they look elsewhere for their signal caller?
I don't think they'll move on. They'll probably keep him, but that's gonna wrap up the video, y'all, man. If you like that, man, please like, subscribe, share, man. Road to 800 subs, y'all know. I'm out.